Ni no Kuni: Wrath of the White Witch was a wonderful game. There's no other way to say it. It was a fantastic game that blended the Studio Ghibli charm with a Pokemon-inspired action RPG and a grand open world that you would come to expect from games like Final Fantasy. And from the moment that I picked it up for the first time, I pretty much fell in love with the game. The animated cutscenes were gorgeous, and I lived that game just to see the next one. Outside of the animated cutscenes, the actual animation of the game evoked what Studio Ghibli was. It felt like you were playing a game made by Studio Ghibli themselves. Even though the game was actually made by Level 5, the art style was still there. The charm was still there. The music was there. The characters were there. The story was there. And the emotion was there. There was so much good about the original Ni no Kuni. And while I will admit that I didn't actually completely finish Wrath of the White Witch, I did manage to get very far into the game to a point where I just fell off of it. Which I guess unfortunately happens to me when it comes to very large RPGs like this. I guess I eventually get bored of the gameplay or whatever, but anyway, this is a video about Ni no Kuni II, because as soon as I heard that was announced, I was like, hell yeah, I want in on that. That's gonna be a great game. The first game was great, and of course, you know, that's a trap that you always fall into. The first game was great, the second one's gonna be even better. And with that in mind, this is your spoiler warning for this video. There aren't going to be very deep spoilers. I am only about 17 hours into Ni no Kuni II, but there will be light spoilers. So if you're the kind of person who likes to avoid spoilers at all costs, you might want to click away right now. So I apologize if that's you. Now first off, I don't want what I said to make you think that I think Ni no Kuni II is a bad game. Because if it was a bad game, I wouldn't have spent 17 hours into it. And I'm still enjoying it. However, as you might have noticed from the title that I think I'm going to give this video, it doesn't quite live up to the game that came before it. It doesn't live up to its predecessor. There are a lot of reasons for this. However, I'm not going to say it's because the combat system has completely changed. In essence, Ni no Kuni II feels like a completely different game or a completely different franchise from Ni no Kuni I. Where in Ni no Kuni I, you had familiars, and it was a Pokemon-style battle system with action RPG elements, like the kind of action RPG Pokemon you've always wanted as a child. Ni no Kuni II is more of a Tales of game, although maybe a little bit easier than your average Tales of game. It still has the art style, it still has the score, and it still has at least some semblance of the story and the characters. So while I won't say that the change in combat is the reason for the missing magic, maybe for some people that will factor in. But for me, I enjoy the combat system that Ni no Kuni II has to offer. And it's fun, but 17 hours into the game, I can't help but feel like Ni no Kuni II is just a game that is just absolutely filled to the brim with side quests, such that you're doing side quests more often than you're doing your main quest. And a lot of you might think, hey, that's a great thing to have happen. Side quests are great, it's more content. Well, yes and no. It's kind of the whole Skyrim philosophy, right? You have an open world game like Skyrim or Assassin's Creed, and these open world games have just a menagerie of side quests. There's so many side quests that you can't even hope to do them all unless you're insane. But the thing about side quests is, for the most part, they're usually busy work or chores, and they're not written particularly well, and they're not particularly exciting. Maybe you're just doing them to get an extra citizen for your town, or maybe you're just doing them to, get an item, or maybe a little bit of extra XP, or a little bit of extra money. But for the most part, a side quest is going to have you go somewhere, collect a thing, kill a number of things, and then come back. It's gonna have you do one of those things, then come back. And of course, in Ni no Kuni II, that's about the same. It's the same thing. There's so many of these side quests that want you to go collect some items, or go kill certain types of monsters, or find the exact kind of item that the person wants from you, or kill a specific monster in a specific place. And I feel like I'm spending way more of my time doing this than actually pursuing the story. For me, that content feels like low-effort content from the part of the designers and the developers. Sure, it expands the gameplay, but does it expand the gameplay in a meaningful way when half the time is spent running to and fro? I personally don't think so, and this part of the game is actually really tiring me out from it. Now, I don't remember if Ni no Kuni 1 was the same way, if it was quite as deep into the side quests as this one was, But hey, maybe that's the reason I stopped playing Ni no Kuni 1 and didn't actually see it through to completion. And you might be wondering, hey, why do the side quests if they bother you that much? Well, the thing is, in Ni no Kuni 2, you're tasked with building a kingdom. And to build a kingdom, you need people in the kingdom to help you do daily tasks. You need people to man the armorer. You need people to man the hunting lodge. You need people to man the blacksmith. You need people to man the fisher. I don't know. You need people to do things. And to get those people, you have to do all these side quests. And to do all these side quests, you have to take a bunch of time out of the main quest to do them. And they're so vapid. Did I use that word right? Define vapid. They're so vapid. They're so vapid. I sound like I'm really triggered talking about them. And while I am very frustrated by the fact that there are so many of them and that they're so required, I'm not as triggered as I sound. But seriously, they're the most meaningless side quests. And I have a feeling that these are going to be the reason why I stop playing this game before I actually beat it. We'll see if I beat it or not, I don't know. Again, it's been a long time since I've played Ni no Kuni 1, but I feel like 17 hours into the game, I got a lot more accomplished when it came to the story. And speaking of the story, again, I'm not going to spoil too much, but this is where a lot of the magic is missing. First off, Ni no Kuni 1 sold itself to me based on the fact that it was basically a Studio Ghibli game, and it had those Studio Ghibli animations. I love that animation style. It flows so well, it's so good to watch. It's so satisfying to watch, and every single one of those cutscenes was amazing. And like I said, I played the game mostly just to see the next one. And I actually didn't remember that the cutscenes existed in Ni no Kuni 1 until I had to refresh myself on what was in that game to prepare for this video. And I watched Gerard, the completionist review on Ni no Kuni. And I saw the animations and I saw the cutscenes and I was like, Ni no Kuni 2 is missing this completely. They're just not there. Why aren't they there? They added so much to it. They added so much to the atmosphere and the style. And while you could make the argument that the cutscene doesn't make the game, and this is a very minor thing to be griping about, I'll argue that a video game is a composition of all the parts that it is made up of. If it's missing a part, and it's a lesser composition because of that, that's its fault, right? Is it my fault for expecting something that it doesn't have, or is it the game's fault for setting that expectation in the first installment? I don't know. But anyway, back to the story. The thing that really, really bothers me about this story, at least so far, is, again, I'm going to compare it to the first game, where in the first game, you played as a kid named Oliver, who could travel between his world, which was, I guess, our world, and Ni no Kuni, the second world. He was able to travel between those, maybe not freely, but he was able to travel between those, and a lot of the story was linked in connecting these two worlds. Something bad that was happening in Oliver's world was a result of something terrible that was happening in Ni no Kuni. So Oliver had to travel to whatever place in that second world, fix whatever problem was going on, and then that would fix that problem that was linked into his own hometown. And while you wouldn't spend a whole lot of time in Oliver's homeworld, you would spend enough to where it was part of the game that really stood out to me. It felt like a unique concept, linking my own present world, which is what Oliver's world effectively was, with this fantastic, beautiful Ghibli world full of crazy cat creatures and mouse men and minions, and that's just, it's completely missing in Ni no Kuni 2. I say completely, and I almost mean it, because at the very beginning of the game, the main character, who's not actually the main character, there's actually a bit of a flip, a red herring, he's a fake main character, his name is Roland, and you get a very, very short cutscene of him driving over a bridge in a convoy as the President of the United States, when suddenly a nuke literally comes and detonates right over New York, knocking him out and then teleporting him to Ni no Kuni. And he's not even the same age. He's old in the cutscene, and when he teleports to Ni no Kuni, he's his young self again. It's weird, but you know what? Cool. That'd be awesome if it was ever expanded upon! Holy crap! I want to know more about Roland. But up until this point in the game, 17 hours into the game, we know nothing about him. I know nothing about him. He, like, on a side quest, offhand mentioned that he had a son to nobody. You know, after his allies walked away, he said it into the wind, as anime characters do. He mentioned that he had a son, and that was the only character development that we had for that character for the whole 17 hours. I can't believe it. He is the most ridiculously shallow character that I've seen in an RPG in a long time. And that, I guess, excludes the blank faces, because those are blank for a reason. You know, your Gordon Freemans that have no personality. Like, if you give a character a voice and a voice actor, give him a character, please. So what I've ended up with is this character who has very, very, very little amount of characterization. I dare say has no characterization, and he's only there as a means to help the real main character, little King Evan, become a better king and to rule his new kingdom. And why is this important? Well, this is Ni no Kuni, and according to some very quick research, Ni no Kuni literally translates to the country of two, or second country, which means the game should be about both. It should be about both the real world and the main world. And if I don't get half of that equation 17 hours into the game, why is it even called Ni no Kuni? If I hadn't played Ni no Kuni 1, would I care about this? You know, probably not, and I'll fully admit that. It might not be exactly fair to place this expectation on the second game, but the first game put these expectations into place. Ni no Kuni II is a fantastic game in its own right, and I'm still having quite a bit of fun with it. While I'm pretty sure I won't be finishing it, I'll definitely be putting more time into it over the coming days or weeks. But man, it's really missing the magic of the first game. I'm finding that I'm way more disappointed than I should be about it. You know what? No. I should be as disappointed as I am because I am disappointed by it. It just doesn't quite hit that mark, you know? It doesn't quite hit that sweet spot that the first game hit. And that's too bad, because the first game was truly something magical. A modern classic, if you will. Sure, it might not have been the hardest game, but as a composition, it was breathtaking, it was stunning, it just filled me with so much joy. All we need now is for somebody to port it to PC finally, and then more and more people can discover it and immerse themselves in this wonderful experience. As for now, I guess you have Ni no Kuni II on PS4 and PC, which again, it's not a bad game, but dang, it just feels like there's so much filler. The story doesn't feel quite as epic or grand or as interesting as the first game. It's missing the animations. Roland is a blank slate and it bothers the crap out of me, but it's still a good game. I'm still having fun. Anyway, I've rambled way too long about this game. This was my past weekend, pretty much just playing Ni no Kuni 2, so I figured I'd get some thoughts out about it. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I know this is going to be a very niche topic on an admittedly niche game, so I don't expect a lot of you people to have been interested in this video in the first place, but hey, it's a variety channel. Hope you enjoyed it regardless. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.